Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 104 of the Podcana podcast. This week, I'm joined by a very special guest. We've got Jordan with us. Jordan actually took down the main event from the UK Games Expo, the Saturday event, where it was the last major Set 7 tournament, I think, at least somewhere around the world, right? And it was 184 players. I played in it. I think I finished like 29th, but yeah, Jordan was on fire. He took the whole thing down. I've known Jordan since I want to say around set three was the first time I met him. Playing in some of the UK set championships. Back then he was running some wacky decks. He was running some Ruby Amber decks, trying to take some people down. But no, Jordan's a really great guy. I hung out with him at the at Disneyland Paris as well for the EU Championship. We all went to the park and stuff, which was a great time. It was like Jordan, myself, Kim, Zan's friend. It was a bit wild, but it was really really fun. So yeah, Jordan, I'm going to give you an opportunity to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe your background within TCGs, what you played before Lorcana.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I started TCGs kind of like in college. Played a little bit of Yu-Gi-Oh. That was just completely casual, just among friends or whatever. Ended up going on to university. Obviously, poor university student had to sell all my Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Stop playing Yu-Gi-Oh. Uh, Ended up getting into like digital online TCGs. Played a lot of Marvel Snap. A bit of Hearthstone. The Elder Scrolls Online TCG card game, which was really fun, but that went away quite quickly. No surprise. And then ended up Spotting Lorcana just like moved to a new area in the UK. Spotting Lorcana was like, let's get involved. Do you know what I mean? And then just ended up getting into it. And then I think I lost my very first game on a starter deck. Was like,
Nice.
damn. Swapped to the blue steel starter deck and got a thirst for blood and just went on a bit of a villain streak, as it's called in my locals, uh, where I just got started buying meta cards and flashed out my whole blue steel deck.
Nice,
But
nice.
yeah, it was good. It was good.
Sick, man. Yeah, no, that's great to hear, and it's. I mean, it's no surprise to me that you're a really good Lorcana player, especially with your background and playing other card games as well. Um, I think I have a very similar background to you, where I mainly played digital games, like as a kid, like I say, I dabbled in Yu-Gi-Oh and stuff, but I wouldn't really say I played it properly, right? But Lorcana was like my first physical TCG, and like just being around like the community, meeting so many people, and just like really enjoying the competitive nature of the game, especially when those first like set champs kicked off. Like, nowadays I don't think I'd necessarily be traveling to another country to be playing some set champs, but it was fun. It was really, really fun back then, getting to meet everyone and hang out and stuff. So, yeah, like, so speaking of like events in the community, like, yeah, we had the UK Games Expo this past weekend, which was really, really fun. I was there for like, I think 4 days. I played in all the events. I played in like the sealed, the main event, and the seal on Sunday as well. I got top 16 in the first sealed event, which I was happy about. That was probably my best deck. My second sealed deck was absolutely trash, so I wasn't going anywhere with that. Um, but yeah, like, we're gonna switch the scene over to your deck, and we'll talk about it a little bit now. So taking a look at the deck, yeah, you played an Emerald Amethyst deck. Is this kind of a surprise? Would you say to some of your opponents? Is this like your normal style of deck? Have you played this type of deck before,
Uh,
or were you just looking to experiment on like the last major set seven event?
yeah, so it's a bit of a weird journey, I want to say, just because like I'd always strayed away from purple just because it had been completely meta and it was the easiest way to get cards
Hmm.
was to just trade all the meta purple cards away and get cards for every other color.
Sure.
Uh, but then I kind of took a liking to green steel, played quite a bit of green steel, played green steel at the LCQ. Which I lost in round two to blue red, but that's all right. And then I ended up eventually being wanting to have a go at like seen the Diablo one drop, very fun card, and just wanted to give this a crack. So I ended up picking it up. I think just at the start of them set champs, like the
Hmm.
start of like May, I want to say. I think I played it in one local before that. And like went 3-0 and then just started to dabble in like some of like Amber Steel and different stuff like that. And I was like, why did I move off of this deck? So I picked it back up for set champs and then started to like slowly just change cards during the different set champs as my testing, uh, and it went pretty well. Ended up teching in the muses just for like the Amber Steel matchup. Went into one set champs that was best of two with the idea of just being like, I'm only gonna mulligan for Diablo all day and just see how it goes. Ended up top four, didn't do too bad. Last game probably shouldn't have mulliganed for Diablo because I was against Kiwi and I was like, this isn't great, but I've come here with one
Sure.
mission and I'm just gonna just pull it, just ride it out and see what happens. That went to game three though, but she just pulled the absolute nuts really, with like Smee into Alice into mana into just
Yeah,
Pluto
one, two,
Shelto.
three,
You know
four,
how it
five.
goes.
I win the game,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
you know how it goes. You know how it
yeah.
goes. But yeah, and then I mean, I think the interesting card I ended up putting in was like he's a tramp, which is a bit weird, but I think it was because there was lots of debate over like improvise and mosquito bite and like which one is better, and I just really wanted to play muses because of all the steel flying around and all the amber steel. Uh, and I was like, well, I think what's another one drop song? And I just had a look. I was like, this is working pretty well. And it actually took quite a few people by surprise, I want to say, at the weekend. Uh, Managing to kill a illusions, which is what it's made to do.
Hmm.
Managing to let Ursula trade up into Smee. I say trade up, they're the same. Managed to let Ursula trade into Smee early.
Buff
And
your small
then
Diablo as well, right?
yeah. And then the one drop Diablo is the key bit, right? So like it allows it can even be sang by a different one drop Diablo if it's down, just so you don't have to spend any ink on it, and run it in. And then it allowed Peter Pan to just like do crazy burst damage some games where you're just playing Peter Pan and then you sing with one drop Diablo and Peter Pan's like a 6-3, 7-3 and he just runs in and takes out a Cogsworth that was exerted and my opponent was like, what? I was like, yeah. Can I read that card? I was like, yeah, no problem. I was like, all right.
That's
And then
really
the most
cool.
important
Yeah,
thing, I mean, the most important thing is it can be discarded for Diablo, right?
sure.
So you can shift. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
man,
cool.
I love the innovation, a little bit of spice. Like not only just for the tech, it's kind of multiple techs within that card, right? It's like it's
Mhm.
really good against the opposing vanish cards. So say like a big Iago or something like that. Yeah, I didn't even think about the burst damage you can put on a Peter Pan. So suddenly you can like clean off an opponent's Genie pretty well, opponent's Elsa pretty well. Even if you had to,
Mhm.
right? Like you could just clear off an exerted Mary Shark if you had. I don't know if you had enough characters and stuff like that. Maybe you could do. Um, and yeah, I really like the idea of the couple of muses in this deck as well, against the kind of steel focused meta. Um, and there's a lot of similarities in this deck to my deck, where you can kind of have certain openers where, I mean, I like this deck better in terms of consistent openers because you're pretty much always going to hit one drop because you got eight one drops. You've also got the two coves, but then your turn two can just
Mhm.
be play Ursula or play your evasive Diablo, which is kind of similar to like my Sir Hiss in my deck, and then you can play John on three, sing a discard song, and then particular, if you do John and you do Muses, like what are they doing? They can't touch your board, like you know what I mean. Every character they play, you'll be able to bounce back to their hand. And I love the Crickies in this deck as well. I think really good to be able to trade up with your really small characters, especially that one cost Diablo. So overall, yeah, I think this deck has a lot of what we saw kind of at the early stages and mid stages of set seven, but you definitely added your own spice to it, and I think it showed. So yeah, I mean, I think if you have it there, do you want to run through some of your matchup spread just so we can understand how the deck kind of played out, maybe?
Yeah. So game one was like Churna Dogs. It was fairly simple game, really. Shift Diablo, drop a muses. Whenever they try and drop their big tramp, you just draw 1,000 cards or bounce it back to their hand, and then they have to do it again and again and again, and you just control the board from there, right? Then it was Green Steel, just traditional. It's kind of a Diablo war, like hard casting, removing the Ursula three, like the Ursula three, make sure it doesn't double sing. That's all right. Ended up losing to Purple Steel, not two, which was insane. I was on the play. They played a one drop, played a Smee, played a one drop and a Smee, played two Smees. I was like,
Yeah,
here, GG,
GG.
mate.
Yeah.
Go next, go next. We went to the next, and ended up just next game ended up having the discard package in my hand, and they just ended up having rabbit bounce, rabbit bounce, rabbit. So it
Sure.
was just like, okay, yeah, fair. But then luckily I managed to 2 the next deck, which was Purple Steel, which played out completely differently. I think I just saw Diablo Shift games. And then into blue red items, I think it was, which was a very nervous one
Mm.
because game two, I won game one on the play, and then game two, I had like Ursula, Sun and Chill, and I discarded them heavily, so I was in control most of the game. But he had like 8 items out, and he drops a Tamatoa, and he's
Wow.
already got Dime down, and he does the maths, and he gets to 18 lore with Tamatoa Dime.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I win. But then I've already got game on board, so he was like, "Yeah, GG, just couldn't do it. Like, just couldn't make it." Then I faced Blue Steel, which I already mentioned, like the Cogsworth
Hmm.
play and just like making sure I keep my 1-3s up because I know this. I knew this particular player, like Lorcana Justice. He plays at like Dudley Boys, plays at many set champs I go to, and all this other stuff. And then I know he runs Grab Your Swords, so I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I need to leave my 3 health characters ready for when he sings Grab Your Sword, he doesn't clear my whole board. And then what took me very, very much by surprise was hyper aggro on table 1 on game 7 out of 8. So it was an 8-round Swiss, no top cut, but he just drops like Lilo, goes complete burst, realizes I'm discard, plays 2 gathering knowledges and empty his hand, and just starts dropping Comic Cons, gets to 18 lore, and I managed to just like stay like control him and stabilize and him not
Jeez,
let
man.
land another card down. And then we played another one, which was just a complete like Diablo shift. Play Diablo on 3, just dirty. Like player muses down. He was like, yeah, okay. He was like, yeah, GG. And then I think his aim of the game was play all his games very fast, scoop his deck up and hide it so no one can see what he's on and no one can scout. And
Sure.
then as soon as he sits down, everyone's like, what hyper aggro? And he takes a game off them, which was hilarious.
Sure.
He was super lovely guy though, and like the community is great. And then the last game, I went into round 8 of Swiss only knowing I needed a draw,
Hmm.
which was very stressful because I was against Ruby Amethyst Evasive, which is like my probably I'd argue my weakest matchup. It's why I had 3 Johns because I think discard's very good against them,
Hmm.
as long as they don't roll into like friends, and finders keepers.
Yep.
Uh, which is what he did in game 1 while I was on the play, and he beat me. Then there was a bit of a judge kerfuffle, which we won't talk about as much unless you want to. But then we went into game 3, and I managed to just take control with discard, clear his board. He played double libraries. I had Cricky, and I just had the answers. So ended up being 1-1, and that was it.
That was it. Yeah, that was the run, man. Yeah, well, you're on fire. I mean, I just wanted to run through the matchups with you there because I think it gives you a good grasp of how the deck plays against the different in color combinations, the different matchups and stuff like that. And I think this deck is still probably going to be quite relevant moving into set 8. I don't know if this exact package is, but I've already seen a lot of green purples running around for set 8, which we'll definitely get into within the new decks. But yeah, congrats once again, man. Like you absolutely crushed it, and yeah, I really like seeing the little bit of innovation within the deck, especially towards the end of the set. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. So yeah, before we move into the newest set 8 decks that we're going to cover in this episode, we do of course have our spilled ink section. This is our listener question section. If you guys want to have your questions read out on next week's episode of the podcast, be sure to pop a comment down below or leave a comment in our Discord server as well. So the first comment is from Maho Basil. They say this episode was exceptionally well done and edited. Keep up the great work, fellas. This is from the previous one where I did spend the stupid amount of time animating all of that infinite combo Monstro deck, but I really wanted to make it clear for you guys, so I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. So I thought this was actually a really good spilling question. They say, what's one card from each ink that you'd like to see reprinted, and one from each that you absolutely do not want to see reprinted? So I figured this would be a lot of cards we talked about, right? If we go from all of them. So maybe you could choose 3 inks, and I'll choose 3 inks. So I'll just pick random ones, right? I'll say like I'll go Emerald, I'll go Steel, and I'll go Amber. And you can take Amethyst, Ruby, and Sapphire, right?
Great. Yeah. All right. All right.
So the first one for me, I think this is quite obvious for one that I'd like to see reprinted because I don't know if I was talking to you about this, Jordan, over the weekend, but I think this card is probably necessary within the meta. And I would really like to see the 2-cost Ursula reprinted because I think you really need to have an answer against super, super strong song decks. I think Ursula it's not necessarily a reason why people don't play certain uninkable songs, but it can definitely it could definitely feel bad if you've got something. I mean, the best example is A Whole New World, right? Like, people will still play that card in their deck because it's super, super powerful if you can sing it with an Amber Steel. But it feels really bad if it's just kind of breaking your hand and then it's also just going to get discarded, right? Or something like Grab Your Swords maybe is a better example because Grab Your Swords actually deals with a lot of really annoying decks and cards, for example, like Prince John and stuff, but maybe it's not played as much because the 2-drop Ursula can just snipe it out of the hand so easily. But would you agree or disagree that you think that card is maybe necessary to stay
I
within the meta?
I mean, I think we've all faced a meta where blue red and blue steel has dominated, right? And how fun. I know discard can get a lot of hate for removing cards from your hand, but like, how fun is it to play a card, wanting to do something with it next turn, and then it just immediately get removed, right? So
Hmm.
like, if Be Prepared ends up getting reprinted for argument's sake, which I guess a little sneak peek at my color, red. I think it probably should, because I do think that it is needed within the game, like as the board wipe and then to just deal with them aggro decks, or like mid range control mid range decks.
Hmm.
Uh, but I do think Ursula is a necessary card to like, for example, I mean one from this set, right? So like we already see Beyond the Horizon
Yep.
starting to show its face a lot in green steel decks. Now imagine if you had no answer to that and they just got to play two singers and sing it like straight away, right? And you lose all your cards.
Yeah, I think if I had to
So yeah.
take away the entire discard package and just keep Ursula, I think I would, because that just seems more of like a, I don't know. Of course, all these discard cards are disruptive cards, but that seems like the disruptive card that could be kept because
Yeah.
there's enough of a restriction on it that it doesn't. You never play it, and it never seems absolutely insane. And there's also some sort of counterplay to it because, I mean, so many times you play against, I don't know, a song deck, and they open their hand, they've got an inkable song, they'll ink it, so it doesn't get discarded, right? So there is some sort of counterplay within that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe it lends a lot to like a mulligan strategy, right? Against like a green deck, it's like, oh, if you know they're on green, you know they're going to be doing Ursula. I can't keep this many songs. I need to be able to top deck them and to be able to play them. It's unfortunate, obviously, if you mulligan and you roll into 1,000 songs. Uh,
Sure.
but maybe that's just the way your deck's meant to be built played, right?
Yeah, exactly. And then for an Emerald card that I definitely don't want to see reprinted, honestly, like this might not be. Well, there's so many cards that I want to keep, but I
Okay.
know there's so many bad. They're so bad for the game. So like Prince John, Diablo, they should probably go. Muses, I would kind of like to see kept around, but I could see it going because it has a very annoying effect similar to John, where you literally can't do anything against it. And yeah, it's probably those cards like the legendary Ursula that can sing songs twice. That's a powerful card, but it's weird because if a lot of the good songs go, and maybe you get to play like kind of some mid songs with it, so I wouldn't really mind that card staying. But yeah, probably John, Muses, and John and Diablo 1,000,000%. Just I cannot see them staying in the meta.
I,
So
I like to argue that maybe Diablo's not that bad, but I'm just a Diablo enjoyer, right? So
sure,
I have no place to
says the
be.
guy who played the
Uh,
Diablo deck.
yeah,
Yeah,
I know. Said the guy who played the Diablo deck. But
yeah,
then my argument is like, if we're having like, it's quite nice to see theme decks and like being like multiple one drops Diablos being printed, two drop Diablo being printed that's in purple green.
hmm
Like, would Diablo feel as bad if John wasn't around? Like to be paired with it to remove all like because that's the worst thing, right? Like, oh, I've discarded all your cards, and now you can't draw cards because you give me cards.
hmm
So like maybe it finds a happy balance with John out the meta because like, and at least it's interactable, right?
sure.
John just sits there.
That is true. It is interactable. Yeah, I still can't see it staying, but
I know.
we'll
I mean,
see.
I can't see. A man can have dreams, all right.
Man can have dreams. All right, yeah. So we'll move on to Ruby, I guess, because you were talking about B prep, right?
Yeah. So I do think like I don't know if some people may disagree, but I do think B prep like should probably be reprinted. If the only reason is that we get to hear Lorcana villain sing "Be Prepared" whenever he casts,
Yeah.
like, I think that's a pretty good argument. However, I do think that like it's kind of necessary to have like high end cost on like it's uninkable. It costs 7. I think it's quite fair. Like there's definitely like strategy of like playing into Be Prepared, not playing into Be Prepared. Like, and it allows these control decks to be a little bit more greedy, right, on the high end and like move into that late game by having an option to remove. But then I see your argument. If Ursula goes away, what do you do against a Be Prepared?
Sure, yeah. But then there's also things of like I could see Be Prepared going, and then I do think we 1,000,000% need like a board wipe in this game, especially at the
Mhm.
moment. Um, so I could see them like making maybe a different version of a board wipe. It could be maybe it's not a song, right? Maybe it's not a song, so then well then maybe it's even harder to get rid of, right? But
Yeah.
maybe maybe it costs more. I mean, some people were telling me this
Maybe
week.
it's inkable.
Yeah, some people were telling me this weekend, oh yeah, well, let's just like get rid of B prep and then let's just print a 6 cost inkable song that clears the board. I'm like, yeah, sure. So Shark could just sing it and all the Ruby players just go wild. Let's not have a meta like
Yeah.
that. But yeah. So
Yeah.
you're saying that's one. And again, like you're saying, you think B prep is well balanced. It's fair at the moment. I also agree in the point that I do think at least we need a board wipe. If it's not reprinted,
Yeah.
then we need a new version of a board wipe, right?
Yeah, yeah, especially since like there's nothing to stop like some aggro decks from just leaving everything stood up
Sure.
and then just getting to where they go, all right, let's turn. You
Yep.
know what I mean? Like so we need something to allow that interactability, right? Like
Hmm.
I don't know if you've got cards like I think there's that dual I can't remember the name, there's the dual link card that exerts everything that's
Oh
uninkable.
yeah, the big
Like maybe they
Takao
go a
one,
more
right?
challenge focus way,
Yeah.
like and they try and force everybody to challenge everything. But yeah, but I would like to see Be Prepared get reprinted, I think.
Yeah.
I think one I'd like not to get reprinted would possibly be Big Sisu.
Yes, you're with me.
I
Let's go.
yeah
Yeah,
yeah
I did not
I
want
think
that
it's
stand to stay around. Yeah.
I think it's I think the dawn of strength based removal needs to go away.
Yep.
But then you've got cards like Sapphire Call that have been printed recently that would promote like it staying around, which is fine. But I would like if Muses and John go from my personal perspective, if the cards that have ward that just stay statically go away, I think it's also okay to say Big Sisu goes away as well.
Yep.
And then we focus more on like uh one-on-ones or like trading and like playing for value plays, right?
Sure,
Rather
value
than just
plays. Yeah.
I'm going to ramp up the big C2 and just play it and wipe your whole board.
Hmm.
Uh,
I think the Ruby
yeah,
Sapphire players are definitely going to disagree with us in the comments, but we'll
yeah, yeah,
see,
maybe.
right? We'll see. Um, okay, I guess I'll go for Steel at the moment. One that I definitely want to see reprinted. Man, I don't know. I know a lot of people don't like A Whole New World, and I'm actually probably one of those people that I one of the worst feelings in this game for me is if I'm against an Amber Steel player and they have one singer on the board and they top like that card and they just win the game. It does feel really really tough. But at the same time, the card is balanced and it's uninkable. If you have enough singers for it, sure, it's super super strong. But I could see that
I,
card staying maybe, but it's a difficult one.
how would you feel about Whole New World if Ariel didn't exist? Right, this is the thing, right? Like,
Ah, that's the thing, right?
because
Yeah.
in a world where Ariel goes away, like, how fair do you think that Whole New
I
World
think
is
it's
when
a
they can't find it and they can't search for it and then just sing for it
that's
straight
the
away,
thing
right?
then, right? Because I think it becomes like a lot more fair, but then it probably becomes a
Yeah,
lot more unplayable. Honestly,
yeah, true.
it probably does because if you can't play that early, um, it yeah,
Well, maybe you still have the singers or the shift lines, right? Like, can you still have like, well, we have shift Rhino, which is four, which isn't
mhm.
shift five, but like maybe you get more shift lines available that can then sing that whole new world, but you don't have the ability to be like, I have no cards in hand, it's an aerial, I'll play it. I get a whole new world. I sing it
Sure,
with this card. Then I sing all my other songs and blow up all your board, right?
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Just thinking this. Okay, so there's general steel removal. Actually, wait. Okay, I'm gonna straight move on to the card that does not need to be reprinted. I think you know what I'm gonna say as well. It's gotta be Let the Storm Rage On. That card is just. I think this card is way too strong. And again, even if you're gonna put the question, oh, if one drop Cindy gets like doesn't stay, I still think the card has to go because I don't know. I think there could be more cheap singers that are printed. We saw what Turn One Bell could do at a time and stuff. So I just think that card is super super powerful to like just remove something, draw a card as well, and I don't know, like all these cards that I think that won't get reprinted. Like I'd like to see newer versions. It's just harder to think what way they'll be costed or statted, or like if it will be like super power crept, or if they'll even be like maybe the designers felt like, oh, maybe we kind of missed the mark of that this card was like so good, so they actually like nerf it a little bit, and then people are like, oh, why would I play this? This is just the worst version of this. But if that's the only thing that's available, then we kind of have to play inefficient removal. So that would definitely be the card I would like to see um not reprinted.
Yeah.
I'm curious on your
I think
thoughts.
I think it's a fair argument. I think the issue is if someone comes back with the argument of one sort Cindy is going away, but Bell still exists. So like Blue Steel still can just
Hmm.
play Popsicle. Wait, when I don't know where. No, they can't play Popsicle and they can't play Fortisphere because that's not around. Uh,
But
but
they
if
can
they can
get
get
one
the
drop
Snowball,
items again. I'm sure
yeah,
they'll
yeah,
print one
yeah,
drop
yeah,
items,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah. So if they can get Bell out and then they can sing Let the Storm Rage On, right? And the fact that it recycles itself as well is like that's the like real killer for me. Like being able for it to replace itself, so it's kind of free, especially early. Like it can be rough. Uh, I do have a personal gripe with Zeus myself,
Sure.
being Sun God turn two, but just because. But I think that's just the nature of the decks I like to play.
Sure.
So but yeah, but I do agree. I think that the Sunray John shouldn't come back. I think I'd like to see new removal in the game, right? Because
Yep.
like there's been multiple steel cards, which like even now, like when we look at set 8 decks, like it's like all right, 4 strength, 4 storm.
Strengths in everything.
What what what
Strength
what
is in
what next?
everything,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Strength is in literally everything. Whereas like I'd like to see it go away, new cards get printed, and we kind of refresh, like freshen up the meta a little bit.
Sure. All right, let's talk Amethyst. What's some cards you want to see stay? I think most people are going to
Amethyst.
talk about bounce package, right? Most people are
And
going to
it's
talk
the
about the
bounce
bounce
package.
package. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like, there is bounce package. We've had new bounce package printed. Like, how I'd like to see Goat go away. I wouldn't like to see Goat reprinted. We have Cobra now. You discard a card. We have White Rose. Like, I've always never personally liked the feeling of if they play a Goat now on turn 17 or like if
I
they play a Goat
lose.
when they're on
Yeah.
17 low or 18 low, I lose anyway, and there's nothing I can do about it unless I can win next turn. So I would personally like to see Goat go away. Uh, I think one to stay. Like, if we are talking bounce package, like, do we say Rabbit? Is Rabbit allowed to stay? It's pretty insane. But like, if the other bounce cards go away and we have other like, if we introduce new bounce into the game, right? Does it open up like more strategies to bounce Rabbit and like a different kind of way to play, right? And like maybe it isn't as efficient of being like Rabbit, Snake, Rabbit on like turn 6 and stuff, but like maybe you have to do a little bit more of a setup to be able to keep bouncing Rabbit back to your hand and keep replaying it and gaining that card value. Uh,
Sure. Yeah.
but
No.
I do think Rabbit's a fun card to
Mhm.
play, so I would like to see it stay around.
It's interesting. Yeah. Like I think for me, I think Rabbit will. I can imagine it will probably go, especially because we've basically got Genie in the slot right now. That will still be in the
Mhm.
meta. Um,
Yeah.
I also I don't think we're gonna see Friends stay, even though it's such an iconic card. It's like it's so much value just to turn your character
I,
sideways, sing and draw two.
I think we've seen Pull the Lever printed now,
Yep.
which is both Sudden Chill and Friends. In like, it's their answer to Sudden Chill and Friends not coming back, right? Is what I
Mhm.
kind of feel like.
Mhm.
Like, oh, we'll give it you both in one, but you have to choose, and you can't sing it because singing is the power of them cards. I believe, like being able to sing Friends, right, with either like Bell or Shift Diablo sing Friends, like in the deck I kind of play.
You know what's a card I'd
It's
like to
powerful.
see stay in Amethyst, and maybe it's like actually just like super past its prime because nobody plays it anymore, and it was only really good with the early bounce package. But one of my favorite Amethyst cards from set two that like nobody really plays anymore is the 2-drop uninkable Pinocchio that just exerts something. I really like that card. But that card was probably so much better because then on like turn three, you could like it's the easiest bounce target for something like a Mim, right? And then the fact that you can bounce it and replay it to get the value of it was like super super strong. But like I don't know, for any cards that I'd like to see reprinted, in my mind, it's less about some of the staple cards that we consider now, and it's about some of the cards that like probably had some potential or there was something there, but the staple slash meta cards were actually holding them back. I'd like to see them brought forward and not just absolutely abandoned, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, all right. I'd like to change my answer actually, and
Okay.
I'd like to see Shift Jafar be reprinted.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Right now, I know it's currently like kind of seen play, right? Like Zan played it at like
Hmm.
a big tournament, won a big tournament, but like I think the dawn of Jafar has only just begun, and I'd like to see it continue. Uh, and I think it's a shame that we're getting more Jafar cards, and that shift line is going to go away.
Hmm.
Uh, and like so yeah, but then I'd also like the broom package reprinted because a broom deck has just never been viable, and I'd like for
Sure.
them to get there eventually.
Yeah, no, that makes sense as well. Yeah, maybe more archetype packages because we've seen so many things push like pirates and stuff, and this just never really
Yeah,
worked.
madrigals and
Yeah, yeah, exactly. All right, let's talk about. Oh yeah, we did Amethyst. What was my
Amber,
one? Amber, Amber.
Amber.
Yeah. Man, you're talking about Ariel. Like the card's not gonna stay, but oh yeah, I love the card so much, man. I love the card so much in my deck to be able to fish for songs. But yeah, it's incredibly, incredibly powerful. So maybe for the health of the game, I think Ariel should probably go. I think Cindy should go. Um, but this is the weird thing about Amber because I do think as all of the as the ink colors like individually, Amber's actually probably the weakest by itself. It really needs to be paired with another color to have really strong synergies. Like a lot of the singers and stuff like that have to be paired with powerful song decks. So I don't know. I'd just like to see Amber form its own true identity. That maybe if it still has the singer package, it actually has some decent Amber songs itself, rather than just having to rely on the other um ink songs to for it to be like really really valuable. Um, for Amber ones that I'd like to see stay, like I don't know, like I don't even know if Bare Necessities will stay because that's just like another type of discard song. I think Bare Necessities is actually Also a very, very powerful card, even in comparison to Sudden Shield. To suddenly, it's
Mhm.
not only the songs that you're hitting; it's like the items, it's the locations, it's the action cards. So I can't really imagine that level of disruption staying, but maybe it also potentially could if they feel like, oh, this is actually a pretty powerful Amber song, and this is what Amber needs to like really keep itself going, moving into the new sets and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Any cards come to mind for you?
What would you say if I said Rapunzel stayed?
I think that's fine. I think
I
Rapunzel's
think
yeah. I think
yeah, yeah.
Rapunzel's a super iconic card. It's been played since set one.
It
Um,
was a DLC promo. It was
yeah,
a
yeah.
mat. Like
I don't know if it
the art
was
needs to stay around.
yeah. I don't know if it was
Like
you I was talking to, or it might have been Josh I was talking to. Where Rapunzel is it's so integral to like the idea of Lorcana that like I think nearly every player remembers in set one, or even if whenever you first played against Rapunzel, where you like left something exerted and then your opponent's eyes started to sparkle, saying, "Oh my God, I can hit this, and then I can Rapunzel." Right, so you really learned to play around Rapunzel to the best of your ability,
mhm.
um, and I think Rapunzel is a very very good card. But I think for the reasons I'm saying, it's like probably the most powerful card that Amber has, and it's not even close, really, compared to
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of the other stuff, right? So I'd like to
I
see it
think
stay. Yeah.
I think the issue is if Rapunzel goes, like we need to see more Amber draw.
Hmm.
I mean, I think the real reason is like Amber struggles on its own is like it doesn't have enough draw, like it doesn't have
Hmm.
enough card value and it doesn't have enough ways of gaining that value, right? So you need to pair it with Steel to be able to sing and remove cards, sing and draw cards. You need to pair it with Purple because Purple has all the draw package in it, has friends, has the bounce. We see it played with Chernodogs currently, but that's because it's got the dueling cards which have draw on them.
Yep.
So like I do believe that like we'd have to see something Rapunzel-esque or something like, and I quite like the idea of like Amber being the heal,
Hmm.
like even though Popsicle probably does more healing than Amber has ever
Has
done,
ever done.
uh, outside of Rapunzel, I guess. But yeah, but like I quite like the idea that like you have to play around with Rapunzel and it kind of into in like puts a new aspect right on like how am I allowed to quest, am I not allowed to quest. But I do think that like maybe that comes into contention when they're printing cards like Rhino that has just come out, which we might get onto later.
Sure. Yeah. And then the last one's Sapphire, right? So what do you think about
Well,
Sapphire?
well, what do you think needs to go from Ember?
Probably Ariel and Cindy, right? Ariel and Cindy.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
They're like
Okay,
the strongest Amber cards.
okay.
Yeah.
Sapphire. Uh, what do I want to see go? What even does go? I guess like I mean Popsicle goes right.
Oh yeah, yeah, a million
And it
percent.
doesn't get reprinted. I mean, it doesn't get reprinted. I mean, Flaversham goes, but Flaversham's banned.
Hmm.
Popsicle goes 1,000,000%. Would I like to see Popsicle back? Probably not. Like, I mean, I do think it's kind of a bit more fair now that Flaversham's gone. Uh, but I do think it's like kind of like insane sometimes. Like turn one Popsicle into Bell, into Tamatoa, into draw more cards. Like I think ever since the Flaversham ban, we've seen the meta open up so much more and like so many more decks played. So I do think it's in a good place, but it's still one of them staples that's like I'm in every single deck.
I've got two more that cannot stay, in my opinion. Maybe I'm like,
Okay.
no, I'm not hitting Sapphire too hard. Sapphire's got like the best cards every single set. Like, besides this set, like every single set, I was like, yeah, best Sapphire card, best Sapphire card, best. So for me, it's Tala and how far I'll go, because so many decks. If we can still ramp on two, so say like, well, we will be able to still ramp on two because Tipo staying,
Yeah,
Sail is
it stays.
staying.
It stays.
The only thing that might go is one jump, right? One jump might go. Um, but if you can still ramp turn two, play Tala turn three, and then sing how far I'll go, I think Sapphire will be fine with different things that's paired. That is like a super 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 strong start, super strong ramp start. You're still getting the C cards and stuff like that. So those are probably the cards. I think maybe some people might think of like the big Tamatoa and Dime and all the item type of stuff. I think the item decks are fun and they're cool. I'd like to see some of that type of stuff stay. But I think it's like the Giga Ramp stuff is like super super powerful, and that's the stuff I can imagine will probably go. And I'd also like to see, um, honestly, the limited amount of removal that Sapphire has. I'd actually like to see that stay as well. I'd like to see like Let It Go stay. I'd like to see Hades stay, because these are also cards that we're seeing within a lot of different decks, within a lot of red blue decks. Like some of the DKP red blue decks play Hades because it's also a 7 cost card that you can use to sing B prep, and then you can play locations down. But it's a form of removal that blue has that's still not like that efficient, but it takes something out, right? So I think it's a fair form of removal, and I'd like to see those cards stay.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think like Sapphire doesn't have much removal, right? So like it'd be cool to say. I would like to see Bell stay,
Hmm.
like a card that isn't really doesn't see much play anymore. But like
Does that
I
one? Does
always
that
like
one
the,
bell? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I always like the idea of like, oh, I get to 10 ink and know I've got this powerful card that I can play, and like there's this condition that I've met, and now I'm allowed to be like, bang, like deal with it. Otherwise, I quest for 5.
Hmm.
That are like some more similar stuff. Like I quite like the like extra little mini games you can play during the game.
Sure.
It's like, all right, now I get to 10 ink, I get to do this thing. Like it's one of the reasons I can't. It's one of the reasons I'm a big fan of Mufasa, which I'd hope to stay in Amber, like the Amber 5 drop, like Mufasa,
Hmm.
like it's a little bit gamba, like a little bit gambling, like what's at the top of my deck, but
Hmm.
it's just then fun little cards that like aren't meta, but might get to see meta if certain removal goes away and certain things happen, right? Uh, and then I'd also like, I personally don't a meta card that might stay or I wouldn't mind seeing stay is Cogsworth.
Hmm.
Now it is an annoying like card that sits there with Ward, but like I do think like the Amber Steel like it's starting to see less play now. Like Kiwi's kind of like taken over like the Amber Steel kind of decks, but like it's always kind of been a staple in like the Amber Steel like ramp decks, right? And like and I do think like if they're going to be losing like Storm, Strength, Zeus, like a lot of like the steel cards in that blue steel like
Hmm.
package, then like maybe they get to keep Cogsworth, right? Because it kind of promotes that challenging and like how that
Sure, yeah,
goes.
it promotes more like board-based value type of thing. I think it's an interesting one though. I think some people will probably agree, some might disagree, because as soon as you start
It's the ward.
stacking, yeah, it's the ward, and as soon as you start stacking some Cogsworths, it's like man, like I just literally I need a B prep or I'd probably lose, right? You know.
Yeah,
Um,
true, true.
but yeah, that great question in the comment section for the first one. That probably took us like 15 to 20 minutes to get through, but honestly, I think it was worth it. We got to discuss a lot of really cool things, so thank you for that, Basil. Next comment is from Luce. They say one should keep in mind for Super Seal that some Duel Link cards, especially from the last set, are super broken and sealed, and you can't just fit in all of them because of the color restrictions. Yeah, this is true because in the Super Seal format for Worlds, you only can play 3 ink colors, so a lot of the Duel Link cards that you're gonna get that will depend. I mean, that being said, you're only going to have 2 sets that you're opening, so there's going to be 4 packs from set 7 and from set 8 that will contain Duel Links. So I don't think it's going to be a massive issue, but I do also agree that sure, if I open the Amber Steel Rhino in my Super Seal, I'd probably want to play that because that's pretty good, right? You know,
Yeah,
would you
yeah, yeah.
agree that like it's definitely interesting to keep in mind like okay, if this card is like so powerful, do I build everything around it? But you've also got a massive pool of 16 packs are open, not 6 anymore, right? So there's so many cards to consider all of a sudden.
Yeah, it starts to open like interesting conversations if you pull multiple of
Sure.
like that dual link card, right? Like, what if you did pull 2 rhinos, or what if you do pull
Oh.
like, yeah, or what if you do pull two like a penny and a rhino, or a
Mhm.
multiple of that like steel card, or the tramp that lets you draw
Yep.
cards like whenever something on your board's killed, and in sealed that becomes like removal is like a dime a dozen, right?
Mhm.
So like, there's also an interesting question I think around like Into the Unknown
Yep.
and like being a 3 cost song like that like I played a little bit of sealed on Wednesday, and a lot of people were running Into the Unknown, but like there's always in sealed it's a hard question of like, do I want to ramp my opponent,
Mhm.
because you tend to run out of cards quite quickly, so again that card draw and that card value comes into question, I think. So like it is interesting. Yeah, it is something really cool to think about.
For sure. Next one's from Nick. They say, I can't wait to play the triple deck format, whether I have a meta deck or not. It'll be a lot of fun. I also hope that Zach Bivens plays some crazy combo of decks and wins it all. Yeah, man, we actually have a deck featured by Bivens. We're going to be highlighting it later in the episode, where I'm particularly happy about the deck that he played. But I don't know. Bivens is always cooking. I got to hang out with Bivens at some of the DLCs. He flew over for the one in Italy, in Bologna, and yeah, he was telling me about how like yeah he just like puts 2 decks down and plays against himself and does like the best openers and stuff, and I think that's really really cool because we've seen him experiment and bring some like unexpected decks at times, and it's clear he's got the skill and he's got the knowledge to be able to bring something unexpected. And I even said this to some of my friends who was playing the event this past weekend at UK Games Expo, where like some of the cards in their deck I didn't necessarily agree with, but I'm like, you know, even if I don't agree with them, it means that the surprise factor will really really help you that people can't play around. I mean, it's the type of thing that you were talking about, Jordan, right? Where you're playing, he's a tramp. How many people? Nobody's gonna play around that card, right? Nobody's gonna play around that card. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Yeah, I mean the he's a tramp like thing. It's like, oh yeah, crab. Like everyone thinks of crab cricky, right? All right, if I'm forward tag over, it's fine. It's all right. All right, I'll play a character sing. He's a tramp. Oh, what's that do again? I think if like anyone, like some of us played against Dak Pivots, right? We'd be like, wait a minute, can we check that card? Can we check
Oh
that card?
yeah,
Can we
yeah,
check that card? And you just be reading every single card, right? Like I
exactly.
think, yeah, it's quite similar to like a deck that's kind of like peeks its head in set eight, where it's like there's just some like crazy combos and stuff going on, and like even in like green purple, like with like loads of random new cards have been played, which is really fun.
For sure, yeah. The next comment is from IBG Music. They say, with triple constructed, I hope this means that Ravensburger are going to make all eight combinations more viable in the future. Yeah, this is something that myself and Moyne talked about. I think it was the previous episode, or whatever episode we talked about all of the ink combinations that you can play for Worlds. Is you are actually a lot more limited than you would first think. If all of the ink combinations were actually viable, you'd have way more options. So yeah, I also hope that in the future, I mean, it's not specifically just for triple constructed. Yes, it does make that mode a lot better. But just for the general health of the game, I want more decks. I want more variety. And if they can get to a stage where like nearly every, because I don't think it's going to be possible, like everything is on the same level. There's always going to be weaker ones and there's always going to be stronger ones. But if they can get to the point where so many of these are performing well and they're actually valid decks, that's just a sign of like really good game balance. And honestly, that's a hard thing to achieve. Like, of course, we sit here and we complain and say, "Oh, why don't they just do this? Why don't they make this color better? Why don't they make that color better?" Like, and of course, the thing you have to remember is any concerns they hear now or any results in tournaments that they see now. It's like, yeah, if they want to make some colors viable, like this, we're talking like a year and a half, 2 years in the future when they're printing new cards because everything's already kind of laid out. There's already a path there. So I'm hopeful that they're listening, and I also think that that's going to be one of their goals moving forward as well. But ultimately, that's a very difficult thing to achieve. But I do have faith within that, like Ravensburger will continue to do their best to make sure that a lot of these colors become viable in the future. Yeah, I mean, rotation will literally like change the game, in my opinion. I think it's totally going to change the game. Suddenly you think, oh, red purple is just this deck. No, like red purple is not going to be just this easy deck you build. And red purple for so many sets is like, right, okay, like 50% is the bounce package, and then I'll just put in like my B preps, and I'll just put in my Mauis, and it's like so many of these staple cards you just put in. But that's not going to be the case when rotation happens, and that's what I'm really excited for. I'm excited for people to just go wild and like build a completely new Ruby Amethyst deck, build a completely new Emerald Amethyst deck, So I'm curious to hear your thoughts as well, Jordan, on like, the viability of all of these ink combinations.
No, yeah, I think it's just what you said though. I think again, I mean, I mentioned the Flavishing ban, but like we saw two decks like ultimately started to take over the world, right?
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden you ban two cards, and everybody gets excited, and there's just deck innovation all over the place. And I'd never been like more inspired to just be like, all right, what can we think of? What can we take to the next tournament and just cook up something crazy and just appear with it, right? Because no one knows what's gonna happen. And like I think come set nine and come rotation, it's gonna be like mental. And like I think though, and we also have to understand that like Ravensburger, like you said, has had like they're a year or so in advance, right, with like printing, and they would have known about rotation way before we had, and they would have known that they would have had to print certain cards and like how things are going to run. And I am quite optimistic on like the health of the game and like the way it currently is now, and I think the Flavisham ban and the Forex Fever ban is a sign of that, like as a sign of like we complained about it in the moment, they kind of admitted that something might have gone wrong, and then they impact it, right. uh, and I hope that in the future of that, like I do hope that we start to see more ink combinations, either through the really powerful dual ink cards that are just too powerful to ignore, or through like some more just like deck innovation and like rotation happening.
For sure, yeah. Next comment is from Edwin. They say, "Did you guys hear about the VHS format event in Italy? Seems like it didn't get much coverage, but sounded like fun." I'm not aware of this format. Have you heard of this before, Jordan?
No, I mean I can only assume it's movie based decks.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
I have no idea, right? Or I've seen a couple of people take have custom deck boxes which are like VHSs.
Sure, yeah.
Maybe you win one of them.
Who knows? Yeah.
I've never heard of
It's
this.
probably movie format, right? It's gotta be. It's gotta be movie
It's got to
format.
be right. It's
Yeah.
got to be right. But is it just? But the word VHS, does that mean you can't like do Moana because it wasn't printed on VHS, or do
Sure.
you
So
have
it's
to?
literally only on the old
Yeah, you have
old
to do
ones.
like early 2000 movies.
Yeah, yeah. That's cool. I mean, I like the idea of all of these cool formats that you can do, especially with all of the IPs in Disney. One thing I really want to see happen within Lorcana, at least over the course of the next 1 to 2 years, is I'd love to see a proper multiplayer format come to fruition. Like I'd love to see one that has its own kind of separate rules, add something. Because right now when you play multiplayer Lorcana, you're playing the same game, and you're basically just kind of always gonna be moving to another person to stop them from winning. And of course, that's kind of what multiplayer games are. But like, I want something extra. I want, and I've seen some stuff made by the community that I think is maybe in the right direction, but it's not there yet. So like, you could have like a signature song, kind of in a zone outside of your deck that you can play at any time, or like a signature hero or a signature legendary that you can kind of bring back and forth into the field. But um, yeah, and in general, I do think the following the same kind of theme of like Commander within Magic, where you got 80 or 100 cards singleton decks, like that already makes it super super fun because you have to build your deck with like obviously like kind of staple cards, but like maybe a bit of jank, maybe a bit of spice. But I want like kind of some build around things and some combos. So I think that would be really really fun, and I hope that between the Ravensburger team and the community, because for those of you who don't know, Commander was like a community format. That's the like Magic fans kind of formed themselves, and then I believe Wizards kind of took it on and made it a real thing. So that sounds really special. I think that could be kind of something that actually sounds very much like the Lorcana community. That the Lorcana community would come together to create this thing, and Ravensburger would listen and take it on and try to adjust it and see. Like I'd love like for something like that to happen. So that'd be really really cool. Um, and the last comment is from Jordan. Jordan's commenting on our stuff. What's going on? They say, this comment made me laugh. He says, "Come on, man. Donalds were only going for $3, and now you put the whole world onto this combo." So this is the 8 cost Amber Donald Duck. Yeah, I don't know. Like, well, we're gonna be talking about some decks now. We're gonna move on to some decks, and I'm just gonna spoil it. There is an infinite combo deck that played at an event this weekend and actually did pretty well. So I'm surprised, but I'm kind of happy, man. Like Amber Amethyst, everyone just plays hyper aggro. Like let's give it something different. Let's give it some legs. And like again, there's still some counterplay to it. You got to try wholesome removal, I guess, for the Monstro. As soon as you realize this, this might be the infinite combo deck. You got to be ready for when they're about to pop off. Like you know what I mean. So yeah, I think it's interesting. All right, so speaking of the decks, let's jump straight into it. All right, so starting things off, we're going to be taking a look at this green steel deck. This is by DJ Big Russ. They came third in a tournament that took place this past weekend for set 8. That name, first of all, DJ Big Russ, I swear I've heard that before. It's a very weird name, but it's very distinct. I might have heard this person from like back when I played Marvel Snap back in the day. Very strange tangent, but anyways, we'll get into it. So Jordan, I'm going to pass this one over to you to hear your first impression, since you said you're previously a big fan of Green Steel, and there's only 2 new cards in this deck. So why don't you talk to me about this new card and how you feel it fits into this general Green Steel package?
Yeah, I mean, for one, that's a lot of pressure. For two, I think I think it was pretty adamant, like checking, like reading the when during spoiler season, like checking the discords, checking social media, and like I think everyone was pretty clear that there was one card that we thought was going to be very powerful this set. And I know a lot of Green Steel players were licking their lips to get their hands on it, which is obviously like Beyond the Horizon, which has already been mentioned today. But I think it doesn't like Green Steel doesn't really need much else. Like at the minute, like Prince John, the Muses, like Ursula 3 being able to double sing, and then if you can get an early Beyond the Horizon off, get them down to 3 cards, like or even then, like I think a lot of like the hard matchups are like Blurple and things like draw a bunch of cards and like being able to just get them down into like a minimum amount so you can finish off the discard with John. Or I've seen some people just whip out an entire fan of cards, right? Because they've got John down, they've got Diablo down. They sing it. You discard your entire hand. They get to draw all of that cards. You draw 3 cards. They get to discard more. And it can also be a good thing for just refreshing your own hand if you're against in the mirror.
For sure, yeah. I think the number in this deck seems kind of correct to me. Like, because I feel like this is definitely the type of card that can heavily brick you. at times as well, and it's kind of it's actually very similar, at least in my deck, to an Under the Sea, where Under the Sea can be like devastating if you just have it in your hand. The good news is this deck runs Diablo, so it can always be Diablo fodder, which is good, right? You can always just discard it for Diablo. Um, but yeah, it can be frustrating if you don't have the cards then to sing it. But let's be honest, we're playing a deck with Prince John and the Muses. What does 3 and 4 add up to? 7. So we're good. We're good, you know?
It's not even that. It's Diablo shift into like Ursula into double sing Ursula or John, and then you've got it again already, right? That's turn three, like well, turn four, I guess, if you need to exert with the 3 cost.
Hmm.
Like, but like just the Diablo shift, like I mean, you'll know being like an Amber Emerald player, like the Diablo shift allowing you to have access to that like essentially Singer 3, right? Like
Hmm.
because you've just shifted it early, so you have that early Singer. It's kind of crazy,
Hmm.
and now I'm reflecting on whether it should go away or not. That's all right.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I also agree with what you said though. I don't think Green Steel needs anything in particular. Like I think this build is super solid. You've also got the Green Steel Pete from the previous set, which is shuts down so many song decks. Like it also makes like Morph really viable. I think I said previously I wasn't a fan of the decks that played like just Morph with only Diablo and only Beast. I didn't feel like that was enough, like enough Floodborns, enough shift lines that would actually be worth it. Because most of the time you're going to be shifting. You don't want to shift the Diablo when you've got Morph. You want to shift out from the one drop Diablo. And then what? Am I just playing Morph just for a Beast? That doesn't seem great. So at least you've got the option to have the big P as well. And you can always toss in some other spice in there as well if you wanted, like, a big tank and stuff. Um, Morph's actually a card, just a little bit of that. Morph would be cool to see kept on with an Emerald. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to see more say, especially with this like resurgence of like blue sapphire Floodborn package kind of coming up,
Hmm.
coming alive, or what they're trying. It looks like what they're trying to push towards. I think Morph's a cool card. I think it's fairly statted where it's kind of easily removed,
Hmm.
and then but it's kind of it creates some fun gameplay loops, right?
For sure, yeah. So the next deck we're going to be talking about is by Travers Tavern. This is the deck that actually came first place in this event this past weekend, and it's an Amber Steel deck. It looks pretty traditional Amber Steel. You've got you don't have the Ursula Vanessa, you've got the Troubadour because you've got the Miss Bianca that you can play on turn 4. You can play that out early. I've seen this in a lot of Amber Steel decks now. This like one of 6 cost aerial shift line, and I love it. I think it's really spicy. Again, something that your opponent's not always really going to play around. Sometimes you can really take them by surprise. The biggest thing about this deck though is it's got the shift Rhino package in it, and you know that this Rhino card is good if people are playing the 1/2 that basically does nothing, right? Like you know that this card is pretty good. So, yeah, like you can shift this early, which means you can then play Zeus and stuff like that. I think the only thing I'm a little bit curious about when I look at the counts and ratios for this deck is I feel like compared to a lot of other Amber Steels, there's a lot of Prince Naveen's. Like 4 Prince Naveen seems like it's a lot compared to some of the Amber Steels I've seen. Some only are opting to run like 1 or 2, maybe sometimes only max 3. Um, but I mean, I can also see it working. Like it's not a bad choice either. I think maybe the reason they've opted for more Naveen's now is like since you've actually kind of occupied the other one drop slot with the Rhino, you don't play the Daisies. I think for me, I'd still play the Daisies. I'm a big advocate for in these Amber Steel decks that you want to have a lot of early aggression at the start because if your opponent can't deal with it, sometimes you just steal the game at the start by playing out some of your aggressive cards, playing a Singer, it sticks, using your song to remove some of your opponent's stuff, keep questing with your stuff, and then by like turn 5, turn 6, you probably already won the game if you can keep consistently removing your opponent's stuff as well. And this Rhino is going to stick around a lot as well. So yeah, I also like to see 2 Bare Necessities. I'm actually a fan of the Amber Steels that play this card for a bit of added extra disruption. It really messed me up in one of my games this past weekend against an Amber Steel player where they just like sniped the last Under the Sea out of my hand. I'm like, okay, how do I even begin to just clear the board now? All of my board clears are gone. But yeah, any general thoughts on this deck and with some of the counts and ratios?
Yeah, I think I do like the bonuses for like the mirror and like it kind of does what like your Ursula 2 does
Hmm.
against Amber Steel. I think the 4 Naveen's like I do think it's good. I see why people are playing it sometimes just because like if discard is heavy in the meta, sometimes you just need to be able to get off that Naveen whole new world.
Hmm.
Like if you can get to it right, so like it kind of gives you that option on 4. Uh, But then the Rhino, now the Rhino is a very heavy meta card at the minute, which I think I've seen a lot of people just being like, "How do we deal with it?" And
Hmm.
it's mainly because even the one drop, it provides such a good access to Rapunzel and such a good Rapunzel trap. So Rhino can sit there as a 4/3, and you can no longer quest with your four attack characters like you used to be able to into Ember, because Rhino can kill them and just take 2 damage, and then you can
And
play Rapunzel and leave it for two.
they get resist back from Rapunzel once
Yeah,
it's
and
fully
then it
healed.
gets the resist back. Yeah, exactly. And then even the one drop though, you still can't do it. You still can't quest with a fourth drop character because they can play the one drop, reduce its attack to 3,
Hmm.
run the character in, and then play Rapunzel and draw 3 cards.
Hmm.
And if you've ever played against any Rapunzel deck that gets off Rapunzel, it's rough. It's so rough. Like, but yeah,
Yeah, I think it's a
but
really, really
it
good
does look
deck
good.
though. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think Amber Steel's not going away anytime soon. This set, right?
no, not the set.
So
No, no, no. If anything, it just keeps getting it. Like all it needs is these few extra tools. Like this Rhino alone is enough to keep the deck around. And it's like, even if you didn't have the Rhino, the deck is still great. But like the Rhino is just another really annoying target. It's like, okay, how do we even begin to remove this? You know, even
yeah.
if like, what's more important about this Rhino, I think, as well, is that the fact that it has 4 strength. So even the strength based removal stuff, it's not that easy to remove it either. You know, so, um,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah.
think I do agree with what you said around like maybe the one drop daisies and stuff, but that's because like the kind of Amber Steel package I like to play, I like to sing whole new world and then drop a bunch of aggro,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Or sing a whole new world and be like, oh, I've got 5 left, I'll drop this one drop as well, deal with that as well. Like have fun.
Hmm.
But yeah,
There
but
is one card that I actually feel like really deals with Daisy well, which we'll get to when we talk about one of the future decks. So, okay, yeah, let's move on to the next one. So, this is Artabax's green purple deck. He played it, I think, in the Battle Bear event. I'm not sure where he placed, but I was just like, I was going through Ink decks. I saw, oh, Artabax's name, green purple. Right, let's talk about the deck. Um, so yeah, this is, I would say, for the most part, kind of standard green purple, except it has a lot of one drops, a lot like good aggressive packages. He's playing the Flins, which I know he was on. He was on beforehand. He's playing the Pegasus. And the biggest additions, right, is this pull the lever and wrong lever, right? So pull the lever, like you mentioned earlier, is basically just either a friends on the other side or it's a it's not even hypnotize, right? It's actually worse. It's just a sudden chill. If it was a hypnotize, this card would be a lot better. But yeah, we've also got wrong lever. The fact that you can play these two cards together, it's super good. So basically, if you have the pull the lever card within your discard, you could just put one of your opponent's characters on the bottom of your other deck. It's like insane,
it's
insane for
like
three.
it's for 3. It's like if pull. I mean, there's the condition right of like the pull lever being in your discard, but like if it is run lever is close to probably if not the best removal in Lorcana in the minute, right?
For
a
sure.
3 cost thinkable like action. So like action being that you can't sing it, but it's also not discardable by Ursula. So like you take your pros and your cons together, right?
It's really
Yeah.
interesting as well, the fact that you just think about, okay, pull the lever needs to be in the discard. So suddenly, I don't know, I don't think you start to play it like this, but is it just like, oh, I'll just hold this in case my opponent wants to like sudden chill me? Suddenly I just put it in my discard and then I can just play this card. Like, I don't think that's going to come up too often, but if this card's sticking around for this set, like you could definitely do that. If people, I mean, if you want to play this package within your Diablo Birds deck, okay, you use the pull the lever. Honestly, like you use the pull the lever as the discard fodder for the Diablo, and then by the time turn 3 comes, yeah, I'll just hard remove something. I don't know
Yeah,
how,
yeah.
how,
Oh,
how good it
oh,
is at the start, but you know.
I mean, drop an Oriole 3. I'll put that
Oh
on the
yeah,
bottom of your deck, mate, and then I'll keep questing, right?
yeah.
Like, it really depends on like the kind of matchup you're in, but like having access to 3 cost removal of anything is really good,
Hmm.
and particularly within the discard package, I've been finding it paired with sudden chill, like kind of as like a budget Bruno when pull the lever's not in the discard because you
Hmm.
can play the 3 cost bounce and then back to the hand and then just sing sudden chill, and that's great if John's down. But like Artabax's list is like obviously it's the more tempo version, and I do think it's really I would like to test it more, and I
Hmm.
do think it's really good. No hints there what I'm interested in this set, but I do think. It's definitely got a place. Also, being able to deal with Rhino, which we just talked about, is a current problem card in the meta that's like starting to rouse its head. So
For sure, yeah. And at least a deck like this can somewhat get around it. At least if the Rhino is exerted between, your crabs and your foxes and some of that type of stuff, you could probably still be able to deal with it pretty nicely. And like you said as well, like Artabax is a true master on this list, so I think if anyone wants to pick up this list for the start of set A, this is a really good starting point, and you can mess around and tweak some numbers and stuff like that for sure. All right, talking about the next deck, yes, an infinite combo deck actually did good. So this is the Battle Bear event within Germany as well, and yeah, it's actually funny. So as soon as we recorded the episode last week with Moyen, I was talking about um certain cards that could be included in the deck because I think he had actually, he probably had the Lantern as well, but maybe it was even before we recorded the video. It was like, yeah, Lantern's actually a super, super good card that you could include because it allows you to get the monster out faster. I remember I mentioned the video. Sure, you could play some cards like maybe Doc. Some versions actually run the Uninkable Gaston that you can exert to pay 2 less to play the next card. Sure, that's a 2/4, so maybe it's a little bit more vulnerable to the Ruby removal. But honestly,
There's the new Hui that's a 2-cost uninkable
oh man,
right as well.
this Huey card and sealed. If you get this card and sealed, you just win the game. If you get this on turn 2, you literally win the game. So yeah, you could definitely play Huey in this deck if you have the space for it for sure. But no, I actually kind of really like the numbers on this. You only play 2 Alan Dale, um as long as you just keep track. Okay, I've inked one, the other one has to be in my deck. The problem is kind of if for some reason you can't get them in your discard, but that's probably quite unlikely. But yeah, I mean, this is what Moyen said. This is just good Amethyst cards, good Amethyst package with the infinite combo deck as well. So like you just like play your mid game, survive, don't die, play the Monstro. Your opponent doesn't have removal for it. Okay, let's play the Donald. Let's draw my entire deck. Let's sing We Know the Way, and then let's get Alan. Let's sing We Know the Way again, and then let's just win the game. So I hope that last week, again, if anyone's looking at this deck and doesn't understand how this works, definitely check out last week's video. We have the full breakdown of how you basically sequence this. It sounds a lot more complicated than it is, but it really isn't that it really isn't that complicated. But yeah, what's your I don't know. I didn't really ask your thoughts on this deck when I spoke to you this weekend.
I mean, I think everybody can judge off your excitement that it looks pretty fun, right? And it looks insane. Like, I mean, again, like you mentioned, Amethyst package isn't going anywhere. It looks great. Like it can be. It's just use that as the shell to put this infinite combo in. And if anything, you could just play with Amethyst cards all day probably, and then maybe some games the infinite combo pops off and you're just winning, right? So I think it looks really fun.
Yeah, some games you just win this without doing the infinite combo, maybe, honestly.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. If you can get off if you can get off a Rapunzel on an Elsa or a Rapunzel on a Iago, and you just get like Pan Iago Rapunzel, and you can just win that way, right? Like you can win by just controlling like early mid game with like the Amethyst cards, and then if you do get up to 8, you can drop the Monstro and the Donald, and then you probably get a game by then.
100%, yeah. I really need to like actually start testing this deck though, because I keep seeing it, and it's like this at the moment. This is just still all theory for me. I need to actually just like get grinding with it and see, like, actually realize, oh man, this actually works. So.
I've had my eye on like Amethyst Amber decks for a while, like, but they were just missing like that one thing to like push it over the edge, like to get that game, and like I don't know if this could be it, but I need to test it.
For sure, definitely. So yeah, the next deck, my boy Zach Bivens, he's on Amber Emerald. I saw this and I was like, man, this guy makes me happy. So there's actually a couple of things to point out about this deck. Obviously he's on a few new cards, but he's on one particular old card, which to me just like really makes sense. And I'm surprised I haven't tried it earlier. I think people have suggested it to me, and I've liked the idea of it. So Zach here is playing the 2-cost inkable 2/2 Aladdin that has Ward that quests for 1. I believe there's another card that's Emerald, just like 2-cost inkable 2/2 with Ward. I think it's like Skippy within set 3 or something. But for those of you who don't know, it's like, oh, why would you just play this 2/2 with Ward? What does it do? It guarantees, like absolutely guarantees, that you're able to sing your discard song on turn 3 once you played your Prince John. And that I mean, I spoke to Jordan about it all weekend. Like he did it in his deck. It's like a huge centerpiece in my deck. It's like that's how you win the game in these decks. You need to get John on 3. You need to start singing your discard songs, and this just pretty much guarantees it. So he also plays the 2-cost Ursula, which when you play that, it's probably still the best option on turn 2 because you can snipe a song out of your opponent's hand. It's a 1/3, which means it's very unlikely that they're going to be able to remove it, and then you can still sing the discard song. But the Aladdin actually makes a lot of sense because we've been playing around. Well, I've been playing around with either it's Sir Hiss or it's the Amber Ursula, and Aladdin's like, yeah, sure, like I'll just guarantee that I get the use off once, and then my opponent can hit into it afterwards if they want to. So I definitely like the thought process there. Um, Zach's also playing a one of chip, which is the 4-cost inkable 3/2 that just makes your opponent discard a card. Um, I think I like it. It's obviously we've had Daisy for a while, which you can use Muses to bounce Daisy back to hand. But I think just like a 3/2 in general, stat wise, is good because you kind of have to bounce the Daisy back to hand, and if you don't, your opponent's probably going to get a decent trade. Whereas at least the chip could hit back into something and maybe banish it. And yeah, the final thing I want to talk about. So I will let you get your thoughts on this deck, Jordan. But this is Lewis, right? So Lewis is the guy from Princess and the Frog. I looked at this card and I was like looking at this card. I was like, why is this in this deck? Like, what does this do on this deck? And I'm like, yeah, just make sure your opponent hit into it. If I'll do this on a Smee, sorry, yes, me, you're not questioning. You're just hitting into this card. Do this on a Daisy. You do this on a Daisy. The Daisy is really, 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 really sad. The only thing about this card is it's better the earlier you play it when your opponent has less things on the board, because as soon as they have more things on the board, they'll have more bodies to be able to trade with first, so that they don't basically trade off one of their best cards that could be questing for a lot. So that's just kind of the effect with Reckless, though. It's like I feel like the later in the game you give something Reckless, when the board is bigger, it matters less. But if you give it in the early game when it's like, they don't have any other option, they literally have to challenge, then it's pretty powerful. And then the last thing I'll say is actually it's playing 4 Under the Sea rather than 3. 3 is usually the standard in this deck. I think I would have liked to see Zach messing around with the one-off copy of the new inkable 8-drop that, bounces a card back to hand and stuff. But maybe he felt like the 4 Under the Sea was like super, super necessary. But yeah, and your general thoughts on the deck, Jordan. Have you played this color combination, by the way? Since I know you've played
I
the green purple
I
one.
I actually ran this at Birmingham DLC.
Okay.
I somehow was on the exact same 60 cards as Alphos.
Oh,
But
do you
he
know what's
made top
funny? Do
64.
you know what's funny?
He made top 64 and I didn't.
Alphonse's deck was my deck because he said I need something to play. So he was on the exact
Oh,
60
great.
that I had. Yeah.
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 So we ended up on this exact same 60.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it's not. I mean, this deck has like
Sure.
generally this deck has like 2 or 3 cards, right,
Mhm.
that you like swap out. So it's not that much of a surprise. But then no, I've looked at the Aladdin before because like as we've discussed already, it's like John, Muses, Ward sits there until you want to do your thing, right? So like Aladdin kind of makes sense in this, where it's like I can play Aladdin on 2, even if I don't have a John, it can sit there until I get a John, and then it guarantees that song, right? Or it guarantees that Under the Sea, or it guarantees being able to sing. And then the chip is really good. Like it's got the 3 attack, so it could trade better, like you said. But then you could still bounce it back if you've got to paint the roses and you want to like do it and you want to replay it. And then Louis, Louis is really interesting because I think he's amazing, but he also scares the death of me just because of Rhino. So, like,
Sure.
just because Rhino exists and Louis comes in exerted,
Sure.
I'm just so scared. I'm gonna forget. I'm gonna play a Louis. And then even if they're gonna play the 1-drop Rhino, or they're gonna play the Shift Rhino, and then they're gonna run in and they're gonna get a Rapunzel, and that just scares me. But I do think Louis is really good, even if it's just a case of like being like a 3-cost that's a 4/3 is just like great, right? We've seen Fox run rampant for a very long time at that stat line. Granted, Fox has rush, but then Louis makes something run in, right? So it kind of gives green that extra chance.
For sure, yeah. It's a really interesting card 'cause like I said, I don't think it's just like a straight up, I'll put this in every deck. And you actually made some very valid points against Amber Steel. This is probably not the best, but against other color combinations, it's probably quite decent.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, next deck that we're going to talk about is, this is Blue Steel. So I know Harlan would be happy to see this deck. This is the Kiwi deck. And I liked this deck because I had a little bit of everything, honestly. I really like seeing Captain Hook. I think Captain Hook is one of the best 1-drops. I mean, this is probably just me talking from playing Sealed, because it was like if you have Captain Hook and you have Palace Guard, you're just absolutely chilling in Sealed. But I like to see Captain Hook in the deck. Everything else is like pretty standard, or at least it's kind of made its way in and out of Kiwi over the iterations. So we've got the Calhoun, the Doc, the Smee, the Alice. Still opting to play the Bell, which I think is actually kind of cool. Still going to go for the Bell high roll if they hit the Popsicle as well. John Silver, the 3-drop, has proven to be very, very good. Couple of copies of the Arthur, which after playing around with this Arthur within Sealed at least, I've really recognized that this card, in my opinion, is an absolute powerhouse. Usually in the late game. In the early game, it's pretty bad because if you play it in the early game and your opponent, it's a weird balance because if your opponent doesn't want to deal with it, sure you'll start questing for a little bit, but you'll get three, maybe you'll get six lore, and then your opponent will eventually deal with it. But then as soon as you stop drawing cards, it means you've stopped inking. So I think if you play Arthur, once you've kind of got to that ink cap that you want, so let's say for example for this deck it would be five, right? So you've got to five, you played the Arthur, you're kind of happy enough, play it down. I think it will do a pretty decent job. Pluto's really good in this deck. We've seen Baymax in this deck already. Cogsworth, as you mentioned. Chenpo's a pretty big body. Gantu just pairs so well with Alice within this Kiwi Birds deck. And yeah, the other new card, which I think Harlan's probably higher on it than most, he probably would play more than two copies, is Desperate Plan. Oh, you gonna enchant it? Oh, let's go, bro. Did you open it in one of your packs? Or did you buy it?
That was the UK Game Expo Reign of Jafar box that got me
Oh, hell
that.
yeah, let's go, man. Your winnings just yeah, it's really really nice, man.
Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah, and then to finish this off, you've got strength, you've got McDuck Manor and stuff. So this is actually the deck that Kim brought, well, Kiwi Birds in general, that Kim brought to the Set Champs last set, and she actually won her first Set Champs promo with it, which is really really cool. So I don't know. It's funny if Moyne was here. By the way, we actually haven't even acknowledged. Yes, for those of you who are wondering, it's what are we like? We're over an hour in the episode. For those of you who are wondering, where is Moyne? Moyne's not feeling too well. He has like the convention flu, which I also had. I know Jordan, you said you had a bit of the sniffles as well. You just meet people at these conventions and afterwards you don't feel great. But yeah, I know Moyne's not the biggest fan of the Kiwi Birds deck. I know if Moyne was talking to you about your green purple deck, he'd be like, he's a Trump. What is this card? This card is really really bad. But
He already has.
Sure, sure. But no, I still think this is like a very viable way to play blue steel. In my opinion, it's actually probably one of the best since we've had the best version of it kind of disappear since the Flaversham ban, and maybe people just don't enjoy playing against the deck. It's like very linear. Again, it's one of these curve decks where you're gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but there's a lot of play that you have to do towards the end. You really need your docks so you can keep playing cards, your desperate plans, and there's also counterplay to the deck where I don't know if you're playing against like a B prep deck, you'll build up a board, they'll wipe your board. You will need enough fuel to kind of refill your board, that type of thing. But I think it's just a super solid deck in general. What are your thoughts on Kiwi Birds, Jordan?
Yeah, I mean, on Kiwi Birds in general, I mean, I think it can take a lot of people by surprise, like just with the amount of lore and how fast they can gain lore, and having that perfect curve, like into like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dock, and then just draw and then deploy more characters is crazy. And then if on 5 they play dock into like or Pete into dock into draw more cards, like sometimes you just can't do anything about it.
You just lose.
Throwing you in the face. But then I do like the addition of Desperate Plan. I think it gives you more chance to, especially with the offer, if you're not drawing cards in the late game, and you can be like, oh, play Desperate Plan, draw 3 cards, or you can mulligan. It allows you to get another mulligan if you have 3 docks in your hand, like I so often do for some reason when I play that deck. Then it allows you to like dig for more options and more answers, right?
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree. The next deck is a version of Dogs, which was a very, very popular deck last set, and we all kind of knew the other deck was just going to get even better this set since we saw the new 6-drop Tramp. And this is also running the new Lady card, the 3-cost Inkable 2/2 Quest for 2, that when you play this, you can play a 2-cost card for free. By the way, this is the most sold card on card market at the moment. I think it's going for about €6, so it's pretty pricey for a rare, honestly. But I think I remember back when like Daisy released, Daisy was like €6 or €8 as well. Granted, she was a super rare, but it's the same type of thing. But this is just like the general package. The one thing I don't like, which I'm only really noticing now, is they're still playing like the bad 1-drop lady, in my opinion, which I really don't like this uninkable 1-drop lady. I much prefer the newer version. I think if you take that card out, you can fit in a lot of just good Amber Emerald cards in this deck as well. But yeah, this new Tramp is kind of the star of the show, and I think you can expect to see a lot of them. I know Moyen actually himself, he's not the biggest fan of it either, but I think this card is truly going to shine once rotation hits, because if we lose a lot of the strength-based removal, I mean, even like, if you're just not playing a Ruby deck, this is such a powerhouse for your opponent to deal with. They have to get through like 8 willpower, and then when they kill it, it replaces itself. It's like super, super, super strong. And Dogs, you often have a wide board anyways, so how often are they going to be able to kill that first? They want to be able to kill the other stuff that's probably going to be questing for a lot anyways. So yeah, I think that card is just really going to round off Trinidad Dogs nicely. I picked this deck out because it had a little bit of the new stuff. I know Moyne showed off a different version previously with some of the other new cards. Like you've got you could play Jacques in Trinidad Dogs now, right? The one that's if you've got three characters, you play it and you gain two lore. That card doesn't seem too bad. There's the Tramp that gives something ward. I think that card's fine, but it doesn't seem amazing to me. But like again, that Tramp is actually like a really good shift line for the new Tramp as well. So, are there any cards you don't see within this current version of Trinidad Dogs that you'd like to see included, Jordan?
Uh, I'm not really sure. I think I agree with you on the one drop lady. Like
Hmm.
maybe its time has come
Hmm. Yeah, yeah,
to go away. I do I do really like the lady. I mean, I'd like to explore the chance of Huey being in the deck.
yeah. Hmm.
To be fair, because like I've not really had a look at it, but like I've been playing a lot of like the Amber Steel aggro, which we might get onto later. But like the Huey feels really nice to roll into that lady,
Hmm.
into another two drop, into another one drop,
Hmm.
because you have like three ink on like turn three, and then you've just unloaded your whole hand, right? And that's kind of what Channel Dogs is about. Uh, but yeah, but I do think it looks good. I'm interested in the look at this family in that deck and how it performed during that
Mm.
day. And then there's the new, isn't there the new nine cost song that allows you to the Rafiki one,
Oh
which is
yeah, it's like you
allows you
get
to get three
characters
characters from your discard
and
and it
play one for two
reduces.
less. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I think someone played me against that in sealed on Wednesday, which was just insane.
yeah. In Seal, I can imagine
But
that
yeah.
was busted. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. Because they just got back all of their good cards and then
Hmm.
played them again. But yeah.
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
some people say that that card might be played in Tuna Dogs. It's probably the color combination, or probably the deck that you could play it in, especially if you got the six card.
Mm.
I personally think it's like not really what the deck wants to do. It's
It's a
kind of
bit
it's
too expensive.
for me, it's a bit like a win more card. You should already be winning the
Mm.
game if you're playing that card. For me, I think the difference with this deck is I'd like to see just like some better two drops to pair with this lady. Like I don't know, I'd like to see some piglets. I'd like to see some just like good statted two drops as well to see how that kind of fits in. Maybe I don't know, maybe some bodyguard cards. Wasn't there like a this could be even an old card, isn't there like a 0/5 bodyguard that you can play? I don't know if that
Yeah,
type of card like works out well, but if you're playing a lot of the 0/4s, then why not try like some
I've seen
bodyguards? Yeah.
I've definitely come against it, like while during testing and stuff, like
Hmm.
just while I've been playing recently, which is like they play like a Daisy Duck on one, and then they play two more characters on two, and then all of a sudden they play Lady and they've got a 0/5 bodyguard,
Hmm.
and then they can just keep questing, right?
Hmm.
It's interesting. It is interesting the 0/5 because it does like open it up to just being absolutely murdered.
Hmm.
But then I guess if you've got a Rapunzel trap like set after it, then maybe you can catch some people off guard. Like, yeah.
It's interesting, yeah, for sure. The next deck is a crazy Ruby Amethyst deck. I feel like I counted the cards in this, and I'm pretty sure it's 60. But it feels like they've just like crammed as much cards into this deck as possible. But I kind of like that as well. They want to like mess around with a lot of cool things, and this deck performed really well at a pretty big event. This was the SSG event that happened the previous weekend, and this was the second place deck. So, if you look at it, it's doing general Ruby Amethyst things, but it still has the really strong anti-evasive package with the Pegasus, the Peter Pan, the Iago. It's playing Maui. It has a one of Monstro, one of Tremaine, and then one of loads of things, right? It's got a Dragonfire if you're maybe playing against a lot of other Maui Sharks. It's got the Founder's Keepers against the discard. It's got everybody's got a weakness, which I think is also like an interesting card to mess around with. The card's been pretty good when I've played it, but like I've played it in sealed, so it's very very different. But I could see the benefit of it for sure. Um, and yeah, they've even snuck in like the Pirate's Life, which obviously synergizes as well with the Maui, the big Monstro, which I think is kind of cool in this deck because it's kind of like a Scar. It's like a little bit of a bigger Scar within this deck as well. But yeah, I mean, honestly, props to the person for being able to cram all of this into the deck, but obviously still perform well with it, right? Because people,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know, some people will look at this list and be like, oh my god, why don't they just play four Mauis? I'm sure if you play four Mauis, it's probably just like a more consistent deck, whatever. But they want to try out some new cards and they're doing some different ratios. So I think especially early on at this stage, it's fine to mess around and to have a bit of fun and to test things, to try things. You're never gonna be like week one, I've made the best deck, like. So.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely been like running the like one of everybody's got a weakness just to get a flavor of it, right? And just to
Hmm.
see how it does perform when it does come up. Like, because I think I do like it with like the Amethyst evasive package, just because a lot of the times you find that you've got loads of evasive cards that have just like got damage on them just because you've been running in, they've got rush because of pan, and then you're running in, and then you're questing with them afterwards, and you're kind of like doing that trade, and you're hoping that they do uh, run back into you, so you get the value from that. But then if you can just drop this, everybody's got a weakness and draw three, four cards off it, and blow up one of their cards as well, then like why not, right?
Hmm.
And I wouldn't ever want to run more than one Dragonfire, so that's all right.
Sure, sure, makes sense. Um, the next deck is yeah, this is the deck I saw again. I mean, it placed sixth at SSG, and I looked at this and I was like, when I saw the color combination, I was like, oh, this has to be Churning Dogs. And I looked at the deck, I was like, oh no, it's not. It's just like it's like Giga Aggro Amber Emerald with four just in time. So I forgot this card even existed, but man, yeah, this is a cool deck. It's playing some pretty decent five drops, but the thing about this deck is now that I'm looking at it, no. I tried to make sure I picked the decks that had new cards. It does have one new card. It's got the one cost lady, right? That's the new card to talk about. Um, by the way, yeah, it's a reason for anybody by the time you finish this episode. It's like, where was the Ruby Sapphire deck and where was the Blurple deck? There were some Blurple decks that were running around. I personally didn't feel like they performed too well. Maybe the deck hasn't been optimized that much, and I'm not the biggest fan of Blurple anyways. But if I see a really interesting deck, I'll definitely talk about it. And the Ruby Sapphire decks, some of them performed well, but they were all just the same cards. They were all just like, yes, this Ruby Sapphire items, or it's just the like DKP Ruby Sapphire with like zero new cards. So I wanted to showcase some decks with at least one new card, but I felt that this build was interesting enough to warrant talking about it, right?
I would like to point out though that we can clearly see Kawa's like social media trend or social media algorithm where there's for some reason three Emerald Amber decks like in these top 10 decks.
What can I
But
say, man? Color
I
combination is
mean
just good, you know?
you know what you like, mate. It's fine. It's all right.
I mean,
No,
honestly, the deck I should have talked about more, and if I have to be completely honest, the deck that I think is has the most hype at the moment at the start of the set is probably, at least what I'm seeing, is Emerald Amethyst. There's a lot of different builds of that deck, and one of them performed very, very well. I didn't cover the deck because it was very, very wild. I'm sure people will know about it, but if you go into Ink Decks and you look up the winner of the Battle Bear event in Germany, it's just like this Emerald Amethyst deck that's absolutely crazy with like the card that draw like both players draw three cards. It's got like a bend to my will. It's got absolutely crazy things. But yeah. Back to this deck. What are your general thoughts with just in time into some of these five drops?
yeah, I mean we've seen it tried to be played like I think every set I always see like a just in time deck sneak up like
Hmm.
right which like normally it's paired with like something like Ruby or maybe even like in a Steel Facilist. But it is interesting. Like I do wonder around like the Goofy like the 1/4 quest for three what like gives ward gives an extra law right like. Oh no, it doesn't give an extra like
Just
just
ward.
quest for one more than Alice,
Yeah.
right? It like
Yeah.
it's a two more the thing is, it costs two more than
Hmm.
Alice.
But it is
If it costs
inkable.
three,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Mm.
it is an inkable, and it does quest for more on its own and give odds. So it's kind of interesting because like if you're dropping that on three, imagine how crazy Alice is sometimes. But if
Hmm.
you're dropping on that on three, questing with Goofy next turn, playing Sven and readying Goofy. Sven's got ward, Goofy's got ward. Like they quest for five next turn, they drop another card. Like I could see myself being like, "Oh my god, how do I get out of
Hmm.
this?" But yeah, but it definitely looks fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting, and I think as well, like in general, it's an aggro-ish deck, and I've talked about this with Moyne as well. At the start of new sets, aggro decks will actually always kind of perform very well because the actual meta decks haven't really been cemented yet, and they can't necessarily tackle aggro decks very efficiently, unless like I guess general steel decks can. But yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's a cool deck, and I think that specific combo that you highlighted is actually maybe the reason they've done this is the Goofy and the Sven, which sure you could have done last set, but maybe they just waited for this new one drop lady to come out so then they could shift lady more efficiently and spam. I mean, this lady is a very very good card I have to say as well. You spam loads of one drops and it'll get more strength. As soon as it has three strength, that it can quest for three, right? And that's a one drop that's questing for three. Like that's pretty impressive. Yeah, I'm a fan of the deck for sure. And then I think this is the last deck, which is made by Sky, and I think Moyen linked it to me on Twitter. And Yeah, the name of the deck is I'm Questing here because it's like I don't know, like a New York. I'm questing it, you know. So, uh, I mean, yeah, this is a Rhino deck. It kind of reminds me of the general curve stuff that Diggy Diggy Hole had, where it's very one, two, three, four. Maybe it's not as much like that, but I can see an element of the curve stuff in it. But this also just has like the new lady where you could again, like I said, it's like Lady and Piglets seems terrifying. Lady and Smee, Lady and then Penny to protect something as well. But the biggest thing I want to ask about in this deck and your thoughts on, because I only really had some experience with this card in sealed, is Vinny the bird. What do you think about this guy?
I mean, especially in this kind of shell with like the lady and the like being able to play this card and be like, right, I'm gonna quest for 5 now. And if you kill these cards, I gain law, right? I gain 1 law, right? Otherwise, you have to kill Vinny first, and then you have to kill these cards, and then I get the quest next turn. Like it just feels good, I mean, it doesn't feel good to be on the opposite end, but it feels good to just drop it down and be like, the only way they could make this word is if it was printed earlier in a set and it had the word ward on it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, that's the only way it'd be worse. But I do think it's like quite well stuck. Like the 1/4, like we know there's like a sat line that kind of stays around, like 2 drop as the Vanessa, like as well. Uh, and you're not going like it's a Rapunzel trap, right? So
Mhm.
like you can't turn a 3 cost. Like if you do want to run into this board, then I've got Vinny here to then run in and play Rapunzel. And you're not going to quest with it, right? It's just going to sit there, and you're just going to play more cards around it, and you can just unload your entire hand. And even if they play Be Prepared, you gain a bunch of lore as well, right?
Mhm.
Like similar to like the Hades, like the very high cost Hades, where you gain 2 lore for everything that's killed. Is
Yep.
it, or is it
It
killed in
is.
the challenge?
No,
I
no, no,
can't.
no. I
Yeah,
just
right,
read it
cool.
again just to double check.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. I was like, oh no. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in this kind of list as well. I think I talked to you a little bit before the pod around like I've been testing like nearly this into exact like 60, but I've been dabbling with Goofy, the new legendary, which is at the end of your turn, remove 1 damage from any up to 1 damage from one of your characters, and if you do ready that character, which I've been really interested into being like just going into the line of like Daisy, Smee, Lady Smee, Goofy, and then you quest with Smee and Goofy, all of the effects are at the end of your turn, so they all go into the bag. So then you just choose, oh, I'm gonna damage my Smee first, and then you choose Goofy's effect, and that readies your Smees. And like
Terrifying. Absolutely
it's just
terrifying.
like adds like a Smee that isn't dying and is gaining and is re-readying itself is just crazy. Which could also, I guess, happen with the Rhino if you run into something. He takes 1 damage and then he gets the resist back. He gets re-readied. Like it's just a fun deck to play.
Man, I don't want to play against these decks. These are like terrible. This is. Do you know what's so funny when I look like a deck like this? This is literally like, okay, this is the start of playing against like a general Amber Steel deck, except they just don't play the song stuff and they just keep questing and they just win before I even get to do anything, right?
Yeah,
It's so
yeah.
strong and it's like you you need such perfect answers against a deck like this. I feel like you need such a strong opening, and like you said, like you can't like even do a slight misplay if you like, oh, I'll just like quest with something and wait, oh, they've gotten Rapunzel value. Like I don't know, I feel like this is one of the versions of these types of decks that it goes so fast. This is one of the fastest decks I think that we've seen, but also because you can also start off the line where you've got like the Cinderella, and you could actually start off the game where you're controlling the board a little bit with the songs
Mhm.
in the Cinderella. Then you'll establish like a Smee, and then you'll do a Lady. So the start is actually still super strong because you can just go Daisy, which is a strong start, or if you go Cindy, you're threatening to remove some of your opponent's stuff, and then you go Smee, and then you go Lady. I just think in general, like good 1 drop, good 2 drop, Lady, and a good 2 drop is just insane. Like the board is just so
It's
strong.
nuts.
Yeah.
I think it's nothing to be to shy away from as well. Just having 1 drop Cinderella there on one, and then you're dropping all of these characters, and suddenly you have a Strength of the Raging Fire in your hand that can just blow up anything that gets played, right?
Mhm.
Like like being able to drop like the lady and another character that is high statted and quest for a lot, but then that also giving you the power of like having 2 more damage on Strength of the Raging Fire is pretty crazy. And if all of a sudden you was hoping you would get to trade for multiple cards with this card, it's not gonna happen, is it? You're gonna
Yeah.
play it, it's gonna die.
So yeah, that was all the decks that we had to talk about today. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys got inspired to play something new, try something new within Reign of Jafar. Um, I really liked a lot of the decks that we had to talk about. The fear for me is always, a new set comes out and it's like, and this still does happen, of course, right? Where it's like, okay, here's a set 7 deck and like one card has changed. Of course, like decks like that will still exist, but the example of that deck that we just saw, the Amber Steel one, that's like a super aggressive package, or the different versions of Chernabog and like all of the currently evolving versions of the Emerald Amethyst decks that we're seeing as well is like super cool. So I definitely think there's something new to try for everybody within Reign of Jafar. And yeah, be sure to comment down below what ink color combination you're most interested to try out. And I'm a little bit surprised. Like this is a nice way to round things off before we move on to set 9. A part of me was like, once I knew about set 9 and I knew about rotation, I was like, man, I just want the rotation to happen now. I don't care about set 8, right? You know what I mean? But no, I think some of the new cards that we saw introduced are pretty cool. Rhino is probably going to be one of the most irritating cards for us to deal with, but I'm excited to see the meta evolve. And the biggest thing is like we're gonna see worlds with this set, right? We're gonna see worlds with this general meta. So suddenly all of the decks and color combination that myself and Moy were talking about previously, you can think about them a little bit more, but like I don't know, like you don't have to play like a general Amber Steel deck. You can just play like an aggro Amber Steel deck now, and it can flip things on its head.
Do we see a Monstro deck at Worlds? Yes or no?
This is what myself and Moyne were memeing about. We literally memed it because I don't know if you remember, we had when we had the deck things, we had Monstro's deck choice where it was
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
it was the Amber Amethyst one, and I'm like, how crazy would it be if the Monstro deck was like so annoying for people to deal with that that's the deck they like
I had to
bench.
have it.
It would be so funny. So I don't know. I hope somebody brings it because I hope somebody brings it, and I hope somebody's on stream, and I hope somebody does it on stream, because then everybody else looking from the outside who maybe is probably not familiar with the deck would be like, I could just imagine everyone saying, "What is going on? Like what is occurring on this board in front of me?" Honestly, so yeah. I don't know. I
I think
think I think we'll see a nice variation of decks for Worlds. I do still ultimately think that pick of what I said, which was Ruby Sapphire, Amber Steel, and Emerald Amethyst, will be the most common pairing or pick for most players. But there are definitely other color combinations with the rise of Churna Dogs. We could definitely see the Amber Emerald one, and then the Amethyst Steel, and then maybe still the Ruby Sapphire. And honestly, though, like I guess I'll put a question to you. How do you feel about Ruby Sapphire this set? Like I said, I didn't really get anything new, but I've seen the items deck still perform quite well overall.
Yeah, I think the items deck and the DKP list, right? Like it's just powerful enough that it doesn't really go away. Like the thing is, early within a set, like you mentioned earlier, like aggro always takes over, and then it takes a second for the control decks to go, what do I need to run now to counter the meta?
Hmm.
So I think like you will see Ruby Sapphire rise back up when they need, like when they know what they need to tech for and what kind of cards they need to run, even if it's dipping back into set 1, set 2, set 3 to like find cards that are like just niche enough that like answer like these new cards.
For sure, I think that makes sense. Yeah, and with that, that's pretty much the end of the episode. So thank you everybody for watching. Jordan, thank you for sticking with me. We're over an hour and a half now, so I hope you guys enjoyed this extra long episode. Um, yeah, Jordan, give us a bit of a shout out where people can find you if you're on Twitter or whatever for Lorcana.
Yeah, so I'm on OL underscore JD413 on Twitter. I'm part of Team Outlaws, which is just my local game store team. But yeah, and which is Team Outlaws on Twitter. So it's Team Outlaws, but yeah, but that's me. Thank
Cool.
you.
Yeah. No, thanks for being here, man. I'll leave like links down
Um,
below in the description and stuff like that.
yeah, thanks for having me. It's been really nice.
Yeah. Awesome.
Always nice to hang out.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, before we leave, again, the number one thing that you guys can do if you like this content is leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, your local podcast platform. Of course, you can like the video as well. That helps so much. There is a video version of this available over on YouTube at youtube.com/@podcana podcast. Hit the subscribe while you're there. Twitters are at Kawatech underscore CG and at OJ underscore D413.
OL underscore JD413.
There you go. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one.